Hey Dan, how's it going? Oh, really? New wreck? No way. I'm on my way. Cheers, bye. Hey dude, how you doing? Have we got anything else in the store? Something a little bit lighter, better for traveling? Ah, no way. Liberty Light. So much better. Thanks a lot, dude. There's so many great dives all around the world. And to be able to see them, traveling became a big part of our sport. If you're a back-mount CCR diver and you like taking your CCR out for a trip often, well then you may like what I've got in store for you today, the Liberty Light Rebreather. Let's dive into it. Hello, and welcome to the 16th episode of CCR Liberty in Detail. In this episode, we're going to be having a look at the Liberty Light configuration. So in this episode, we're going to have a look at what and who the Liberty Light configuration is for. We're gonna have a look at the individual parts and the variants of the configurations. And we are also going to just quickly do a sped up build of the unit at the end. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's have a look at the philosophy behind the unit and how it's reflected in its design. So the unit was designed to be as light as possible and also to be as comfortable as possible while maintaining its reliability and durability. So this would make the unit to be a perfect travel companion or everyday diving unit. It would also need to accommodate enough weight even for cold water dry suit diving. So there would be no compromises made there. So you can still do your full-on dives with multiple cylinders, or you can just take your unit to tropical waters and do some nice relaxed warm water diving. Either way, the unit is ready for any type of diving. The head, the scrubber, the loop, the counterlungs and their position would remain unchanged. So the work of breathing performance, which is a key feature of all the Liberty unit configurations, would remain the same. The unit also needs to be convertible, so we had more of a look into this in our 13th episode, so you can convert the Liberty Light into all other configurations and vice versa. The unit's dry weight is 15.3 kilos without cylinders in this configuration, which makes it a perfect travel companion, and it's just a breeze to travel with the unit. You traveling to the destination where you can rent the cylinders on site? Awesome. So what you can do is you can take your head and you can take it on board of the aircraft in your carry-on luggage, and you can just pack the rest of the unit in your suitcase. The unit would weigh a tad over 10 kilos, which would leave you with plenty of leftover weight for other things. You can even take your jet fins with you. Well, I do anyway. The weight saving is really helpful, especially nowadays when every bit of weight in your luggage counts. So I think it's pretty awesome. So let's start with our frame and everything else that's built around it. So what we're going to start with is we're going to have a look at this. So this is our soft pack backplate with integrated weight system. So the weight system is held by Velcro and actually contains enough space to be fully loaded with weight. So there is plenty of space for any extra weight that you would need to fit into the unit in case that you do cold water diving where you need to wear thick undergarments in your dry suit and stuff like that. So there's plenty of space for that. And you can also position the weights and trim the unit up. So we have two compartments here on each side, and those are actually removable. So if you really did need to shear some weight off, you can take these out. And you have the central strip compartment for the weights to be placed here as well. And this one is actually quite high, so you can actually stack your weights up. So if you really do need to trim yourself up and you do need to put extra weight to a particular part of the unit, you can do so. There is enough space for that. So when you're done, you just close the pad and close that, and then you can pop the unit on your back. As you can see, it's all nice and soft, so it makes the unit really nice and comfortable. Next thing that we're going to have a look at is the position of our counterlungs. On the side here, this is where we have our counterlungs attached. The counterlungs are exactly the same as on our standard back mount unit. They also have 3.5 liters of volume each. Their position is exactly the same, so the work of breathing has not changed. However though, they are not compatible with the light unit. So your counterlungs from your back mounted counterlungs from your standard unit will not fit the Liberty Light, as the zipper here is shorter and the locking system is slightly different. However though, they're still attached by a zipper, so the way you attach them is exactly the same. The unit can also come in a front mounted counterlung configuration. Not in this color combination, as this was one of the earlier prototypes, but it still works. But you can either get the unit in black color with red letters, or you can get it in red with white stitching. But the front mounted counterlungs are attached exactly the same way as you know from the standard back mount unit front mounted counterlung configuration. The counterlungs are exactly the same, so those actually are interchangeable with the standard back mount front mounted counterlung configuration. So those can be used when you are converting, for example, into light unit. So if you are traveling or you are used to diving with your standard configuration unit and you are just getting a conversion kit for the cases when you go traveling, you can keep your front mounted counterlungs and just convert into the light unit that way. So it's quite easy. We had a look at the front mounted counterlung configuration and how you can spec it up, and also at our back mounted counterlung configuration in our episode number 13. So if you would like to know the advantages and the disadvantages and the differences of those two configurations, they also apply to the Liberty Light. What I also want to point out is our bungee cords that come out of the frame. So if you wonder what those are for, those long bungees, they can obviously be removed. So if you do not like using those, you can easily remove them. But those are used for the valves of your bailout cylinders. So those would help to keep the bailout cylinders more tacked closer to your body, and also to keep them more streamlined along with your body. So you get one on each side, and those shorter ones on the bottom, they are actually bungees for the valves of your argon bottles. So if you are using the argon bottle, you can attach the strap for argon bottle to a screw here and use this bungee to loop over the valve of the argon bottle, and that helps to keep the bottle more secured. Underneath our weight system, we have our wing, and between our wing and the weight system, you can actually see there are two carbon fiber plates. So we have one on the bottom and there is one on the top. Those actually are mounts for the harness. So our harness can also be equipped with quick release buckles. You can either choose to have one on either side, or you can choose to have them on both sides in case you like unclipping them both and getting out of your gear easier. This obviously adds additional weight to your unit, but the option is there. You basically spec those up the same way as you would the standard back mount configuration. So all those options are there. As you can see by looking at the size of the units, they are also suitable for divers of a smaller figure. Doesn't matter if you're tall or you're not as tall, the unit is comfortable regardless. For the divers that are taller, the stand that's supplied with every unit helps you to give you extra lumbar support. For divers of smaller figure, the unit is really comfortable as well because the whole frame is shorter. So now let's have a look at the stand. So every unit comes with a stand. The stand is very easy to put on or to detach. We're going to have a look at it when we are putting our unit together later on in a video. But if the weight is a real issue, then you travel without your stand. If the weight is not so much of an issue and you would like to have your stand, you would like to take the stand with you, the stand is made to be as light as possible, but also to be as strong as it can be. Also while saving the weight, so that's not a problem. The stand comes with an adapter. So as you can see here, the stand in this configuration is used with a standard scrubber canister, and also you would use it with the extra large scrubber canister. In this case, we have a special adapter that you just put on, and you can use it with a short scrubber canister. So actually, when you look at this configuration, this is what the unit would be like if you were converting straight from your side mount unit using a short scrubber canister. So you'd have your 2-liter cylinders and you would have your short scrubber canister, and you've just turned the unit into a back mount Liberty Light configuration. So as you can see, the unit can be used with any type of scrubber from our range. On the sides here, obviously we have our cylinders, our oxygen and our diluent cylinder. The unit can be run with either 2 or 3-liter cylinders. Those are generally available for rent at CCR dive centers that are used to accommodating traveling CCR divers. So if you're going to a center like that and you can rent the cylinders there on the side, you get a real benefit of the weight saving of the unit. Going down our cylinders, for first stage regulators, we're using Apex Flights. Same as with side mount unit, they're simple, reliable, easy to service with a great performance, but at the same time they're very light, so it helps with the overall weight saving of the unit. And here outside you can see our 2 Velcro straps holding our head and the scrubber canister to the frame, and those are secured with our special lock, which we're also going to have a look at when we start building the unit together. Next, moving on to our loop. Our loop is connected to the head and to the counterlungs exactly the same way as it is on the back mount unit configuration, on the standard back mount unit configuration. And same applies to way how you can configure the BOF and the DSV and the ADV. So this is all the same as it is on a standard back mount unit configuration. So if you would like to have a look into more detail of this, be sure to check out our 14th episode. So, okay, let's move into the quick build up of the unit. So let's jump into the assembly of the unit so you can actually see how the parts fit into each other. Just please note, this is going to be a sped up assembly. So we are going to speed some things up for the sake of the video, and we're also going to skip some minor steps. So this is not an instructional video on how to assemble the unit step by step. If you are putting the unit together to go diving with it, always follow your checklist, always complete all the steps, and make sure that you do all the steps necessary to go diving with the unit safely. If you do want additional help, we have an app, so you can use the app to assemble the unit, follow your checklist, and it has a bunch of additional functions that are also helpful to put the unit together. So we've got that, so let's get into it. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to grab our scrubber. This is our short scrubber canister with 2.5 kilos of soak capacity. As you probably know from our previous videos, we're using radial type of scrubber, so we're not going to get into much of a detail of that. But we have our scrubber, so if you're putting your unit together, your scrubbers are obviously full and either it's got a fresh new filling of sorb in it or it's got enough remaining time for your dive. So now this is different. So because we are not locking our head and the scrubber canister to our frame anymore, as you know from our standard back mount unit configuration, we got to secure these two together to prevent them from opening. So what we're going to use is our special locking mechanism that you're going to see with the Liberty Heavy and in the Liberty Light configuration. So this is the one. The great thing about the locking mechanism is that it's very easy to attach, and it can also help you to separate your head from the canister if you need to open them. So let's have a look at it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my lock. I'm going to pull these two levers up to free the way so I can put it into our lock that's already in our scrubber. It will fall into its place, and I'm gonna close the levers down, and that will secure the whole lock into our scrubber canister. So that's not going anywhere. And then I'm gonna grab my head. Obviously you follow your checklist, so you check all your O-rings, you check your head's charge and all that sort of thing. We're not gonna get into that. And you're gonna attach the head to the scrubber the same way. So I'm gonna push down on it. And now we are going to place the top of the lock into the head locking mechanism hole. And I'm gonna pull down on the lock. Make sure it's clipped on so it locks itself in place. So now I can't open it. And these two are securely held together. When we're done with our diving and I want to get into my head or to refill my scrubber or to do any maintenance on the unit, the way I get into it is I pull our two little locks here, open the lock up, and now I can push on it upwards. And as you can see, it will split our head and the scrubber canister apart. And now we can easily get inside. So I'm gonna lock these two back together, and we're gonna move onto the next step. And now we're going to attach our stand. So I'm gonna run the unit with a stand this time. As I showed you before, this is a short can, so I've got the stand with my adapter. And the way I'm gonna attach it to the frame is that I'm gonna undo the central strap. We've got two cut-ins here, so they are for the central strap. And I am just going to feed the central strap through the cut-ins. And then when I'm done and I actually attach our scrubber and a head to the frame, it will tighten everything together. So this will prevent the stand from movement. So now my central strap is undone. I'm gonna undo my head strap. Now before we actually put our head and a scrubber canister in, you get a clear view at our hose routing. So you can see our Apex first stage regulators here, and you can see our Velcro loops up along the side of the rebreather body. So they're basically ran along the side here. So I'm gonna attach the head and the scrubber to the frame. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hook up my O2 and I'm gonna do my straps up. So our straps are done up. Next thing is we're going to attach our cylinders. So I'm gonna put my two cylinders on. So our diluent cylinder goes to the left. Obviously this is after, if you're building your unit up, this is when your cylinders are already filled up and analyzed. You basically slide them into the Velcro straps, screw your first stages on, and you're done here. So our cylinders are attached with our straps. Now I can stand the unit up or tip it over to the other side. And this is the step when you would usually do your oxygen sensor calibration. So if you're building your unit up, you can do that. Next step is to attach your counterlungs. So here are our back mounted counterlungs. So those are zipped up as you've seen before. So I've already done that up. Then you would do your flow test, and the next thing that you need to do is to attach your loop. So let's attach our loop. So with our loop, the process is exactly the same as you know from the standard back mount unit. You hook up your inhale side first, and then you place in the exhale side. You can't exchange those as they have different number of tabs on them, so that prevents them from being accidentally swapped over, so you can't do that. Next thing, I'm gonna line up our markers with our T-pieces and counterlungs. Lock those in. Obviously, when you're putting your unit together to go diving, you're checking all the O-rings and all the connections, making sure they're lubed up and they're not compromised or don't have any sort of damage on them. And now our loop is connected. The next thing that I've got to do is to hook up all our hoses. So I'm going to do that now, and we're done with our assembly. Now I've hooked up my hoses and the unit is completed. So as you can see, it was nice and easy. There wasn't too much to it. Now, if you were to go diving, then you would perform to your pre-dive check and so on and so forth. And that's it for today's episode. So I hope I was able to give you enough insight of what the Liberty Light unit is about. And if you had any further questions, please visit our webpage at divesoft.com or email us at info@divesoft.com. If you would like to try Liberty Light, please contact one of our instructors and arrange a demo dive with them. Also, don't forget to check out our social networks. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Thanks for watching.